Hey guys, the weirdest thing just happened. And I was walking my dog and I came up with a video idea, which is about this video. And I come home, and as soon as I get home, I get this notification on my phone. And it's this guy I follow on YouTube. His name is Tarik Talks on YouTube. Tarik Talks. Tarik Talks. Super, super cool dude, in my opinion. And he's talking about the same topic that I was thinking about while walking my dog outside. And a bit of a variant on it, but then he posts a picture during his YouTube video, and it's similar to this picture. And I decided to sort of copy him and post this picture. But anyway, this is a topic that I am interested in, and it just blew my mind while I was walking my dog down the street. I live in downtown in a decently large city. In the downtown area, Thursday night, walking my dog, a Thursday evening ish, and I come across this place, and there's this bar basically right next to my place, packed full of people, full of hot girls, guys dressed up, all that type of stuff. Walk a few blocks, even less than a few blocks, and there's this lady who's in her 40s or 50s, maybe. Not the best looking lady, and not that I judge too much usually, but I mean, anyway, this is sort of relevant to the story. Not the best looking lady, and she is with this guy who is much, much younger than her. And the guy, she says something along the lines of, "Oh, do you believe this guy was?" She's a bit tipsy, mind you, and she says, "Do you believe that guy was 23?" And then the guy says, "The guy's." I'm assuming he's gay because of what he said, and he's kind of sort of appears to be interested in dudes. And he said something about like, "Oh, well, he's 23. I would hook up with him," or something along those lines. And then the lady's like, "Yeah," like she sort of like says something along the lines of, "Yeah, I kind of wanted to hook up with him, but." I'm using different terms, obviously, but like he's 23, and like she was kind of questioning it, but she sort of seemed like she really wanted to hook up with this dude who was 23. She's a lady who's basically kind of overweight, in her 40s or 50s. And prior to that, I had seen all these people partying on a Thursday night, super good looking girls, dressed up, tight, skimpy dresses. And then I keep walking my dog, and something else occurred on that same walk, and that's why I got the idea for this video. I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh yeah, so I'm walking my dog, and then these three super super good looking girls um, pop up right in my face, basically, and I've sort of trained myself to just keep looking straight and not look at people unless I intend to talk to them, especially if it's like girls who are dressed in a certain way, because I know they're looking for attention, and I don't want to give my attention to anything that is not productive. Maybe that's a bit of a crazy thought for most people, but that's sort of how I trained myself over the last 5 to 10 years. But anyway, so that's the third thing is three super good looking girls pop up, and they're dressed going out to party on a Thursday night. And this topic of like sort of degeneracy pops into my mind, or this sort of topic of promiscuity and like the culture that we live in nowadays. And I'm not one to judge, not by any stretch of the imagination, because I've hooked up with so many girls over the past couple of years, like a crazy amount. Sounds like I'm bragging, but a crazy amount of girls in the past couple of years. And I've done my fair share of like going out and hooking up with people and all that type of stuff. And I'm not here to judge. I just sort of noticed like a trend of degeneracy in today's culture, and it was most apparent, to be honest, with that older lady and the guy who was with her, and how they were discussing sex. And it sort of um, blew my mind, because there was an aspect of lightheartedness to it, right? There was an aspect of lightheartedness to the degeneracy, to the promiscuity. It sort of tempted me in some way to go back to that lifestyle, because it seems on the outside of it, on the surface of it, it seems so lighthearted, in the sense that there's this lady who's out partying, and she's in her 40s and just chilling, and like she seems to have no responsibilities, and this dude who's probably gay just chilling outside and like no responsibilities as well. Like from the outside it seems like so chill, and like laid back, and they're just drinking and having fun and hooking up with people, and it just seems like the whole degeneracy thing seems so light from the outside of it, right? And it's tempting to live that sort of light lifestyle, that sort of like no responsibility, sort of just like hooking up and just making your basically flesh and your body feel good, right? As weird as that sounds, but just focusing on like pleasures of the flesh, or focusing on like just enjoying your biology, just like following your biology and not resisting temptation and not having any discipline, and just like going out and hooking up with people and just having fun and getting tipsy and like being 23 or being 44 or whatever, and just doing your thing. And that lady just like it was the epitome of someone who, again, not to be judgmental, but was the epitome of someone who has absolutely seemingly no discipline at all, because she was fairly overweight and she was fairly just like dressed comfortably, and she was sort of tipsy and just walking around just expressing herself without any worry about what anyone thinks, and seems to be a very light, very how do you say it, like very easygoing when it comes to hooking up with people, right? Doesn't seem to think it through too much, it seems like, from what I heard from the conversation. Again, not to be super judgmental, but it seems like she has a light life on the outside of it, right? It has that like sort of hooking up culture lightheartedness to it, like an Entourage. If you've seen like the show Entourage, where like they're just hooking up with people and it's sort of lighthearted, or like a Will and Grace sort of vibe to it. It had a bit of a Will and Grace sort of vibe to it, where they're just like promiscuity is going around and like it's not a big deal and it's just lighthearted sort of thing. And there was a big amount of temptation that drew me towards that, right? And there was a big amount of temptation that drew me towards the all the good-looking girls who were dressed very nicely, or very how do you say it, like sexy, basically. Whether it was in the bar or whether it's in the downtown area, there is a sort of temptation to just go into that life and just talk to those people and hang out, and it all seems so lighthearted from the outside. And then you delve deeper and deeper into it, because I did do it for months and months at a time in the very recent past. And by the way, guys, what do you think of that picture that I have posted on the video? Dope, right? Looks super cool. Anyway, because I did do it in the recent past, I did do the whole promiscuity thing, hooking up thing, and all that type of stuff. And the girls who seemed very lighthearted about it were not lighthearted about it. The girls who I hooked up with, many, many, many girls I hooked up with on the first date, like I would say over 80% of my first dates, probably off of Tinder specifically, especially off of Tinder, you just hook up with a girl on the first date. And those girls who seemed very lighthearted and seemed very like whatever about hooking up were not whatever about hooking up at all, right? And I was sort of whatever about hooking up, but then as soon as I removed myself from that sort of mindset, that sort of delusion that I was living in, I don't want to call it delusion, I don't know what the trance, that sort of trance that I was living in, right? Sorry about the background noises, guys. Let me just wait this one out for a second. Um, Almost gone. All right. As soon as I got out of that trance that I was living in, whereas it was like hookup after hookup after hookup after hookup, just living in that sort of lifestyle, right? Not being productive, just focusing on just hooking up with girls, meeting up with girls, texting girls, going places, going on a date, setting up this date, setting up that date, right? When I was in that vibe, it was kind of I was just lost in the sauce, as they say. But after I got out of it, I'm like, dude, I made all these quote unquote memories with these girls who, in all honesty, some of them I really cared, and most of them I cared about. I don't want to say deeply, but I did care about a lot, a lot of them, and I thought they were cool people. And there goes my dog barking at other dogs. I thought they were cool people, and I just lost those memories completely, because now I can't even talk to them about those memories, because you have these short-term quote unquote relationships or hookups or whatever you want to call them, and you sort of form a connection with this person, And it's not the deepest of connections. It's not like love or anything like that in the traditional sense of the word, but you do form these short sort of connections, and not to be sappy about it, but then they're gone forever, and you cannot go back and reminisce. You can't go, like, it's sort of like the memory just disappeared forever. It's the weirdest feeling to me, in my mind at least. And these people are like just completely gone, and you don't know what happened to them. You don't know. Some of them just like some people I just kept in touch with for a few months after on Facebook or on Instagram or by text message, and they just at some point we just like went our different paths, and I have no idea what they're going through. And those are people at some point I had a connection with, right? Even if it's not like a deep connection or whatever. But like my point is, this whole promiscuity thing is not as light as you think it is. This whole degenerate, quote unquote, I don't like using the word degenerate because it sounds judgmental. But this whole society where like we're focused on the superficial, where we're focused on hooking up and all that type of stuff. There's a time and place for it, and I don't want to be judgmental. And there's basically a period in your life where maybe you might want to go through it. Maybe, even though I don't necessarily recommend it, but maybe you want to do that type of thing. But bear in mind that it's a lot deeper than it looks. It's a lot more, excuse me, it's a lot more complicated than it looks, whether it's to you or to the other person, whether you're a male or a female or whatever you are. It can cause a lot more harm than you expect it to, and it can cause a lot more damage than you expect it to, and it can cause you to have nights where you reflect about the people that you have lost. And some people don't care about that stuff. Some people genuinely, especially guys, like I've hung out with a lot of dudes who have had that lifestyle, and they do not really care about that type of stuff. But in my belief system, and maybe it's just me and maybe I'm wrong, I might be wrong, there is some damage that is caused to your soul when you do decide to go through that type of lifestyle, right? There's a lot of experience, there's a lot of scars that you form, there's a lot of hurt that you deal with, and that's not all necessarily bad because there's a lot of learning experiences, right? There's a lot of growth that happens also from it. But in my belief system, the the harms probably outweigh the good, and there's a lot of harm that you can cause, and there's a lot of karma that you feel like you accumulate on yourself because of the sadness that you cause to other people. And it's not necessary it's not necessarily your fault, in the sense that you can go into a whatever, hanging out with a girl, and you make it very clear from right off the bat, like, hey, listen, I'm only meaning to hook up, I'm not meaning for a relationship, not looking for a relationship, all that type of stuff. And the girl will form a connection towards you, especially if you're nice to her for whatever reason. Then even if you're a tiny bit nice to the girl, she will feel connected to you just for you being a tiny bit nice to her, right? And basically what ends up happening is, since she feels this connection towards you, when you guys break it off eventually, because you have different goals, right? Because initially you opened up and you're like, oh, let's just hook up, and she's like, okay, let's just hook up, and now she wants something more, and you can't provide anything more. um, when you guys break it off, it's going to cause some damage towards her, right? And then she's going to make you feel guilty, and then you're going to feel bad about it. And there's a bit of quote unquote karma that accumulates over time, and I don't think it's a necessary thing for you to deal with. Although, in all honesty, maybe I did get a good learning experience out of it, at least in terms of what I want out of life, and at least in terms of um, I did get some relationship lessons as well through that, right? Anyway, but that's a topic for a different video. Anyway, this is sort of the thing that I wanted to talk about. This whole temptation, especially for young men, this whole temptation when you see beautiful women walking around, when you see the promiscuity just like right there in your face, right? Even if it's a lady who's not super super attractive, right? When you see the lightheartedness of the promiscuity, right? You're a young dude, you see a 40 something year old lady who's like, oh yeah, I'll hook up or whatever, like talking about hookups in a very casual manner. hooking up at that age becomes very tempting, right? So the idea of hooking up becomes very tempting. Even me, I'm a bit older, but I was like, oh, this lady's just hooking up, and it's pretty cool that such a large percentage of people just like take hooking up so casually, and like, there's the option as a guy, especially as a high, I don't want to say high value, but especially as a guy who's attractive within the dating market, you can just go out to the bar, meet a girl, hook up with her, and then move on with your life. It's a tempting offer, right? It's a tempting offer to every guy, but I think discipline is more rewarding. I think discipline is more healthy and more rewarding in the long run. But that's just my opinion. You guys make your own. All right. Peace out.